Please give close attention to the following encouragement.
I have a good job. I'm content. I'm needed. I hate the baby Jesus. I consider adulthood Jesus 1,000 times greater. And also, I hate the movie Inception. Why? Well, one thing about it, the dream is true. And also, I'm not smart enough.
Hey everybody, my name's Jake. This is the Sunday service. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness, current Pride adjacent shirt wearer, and thanks for joining us. I'm still trying to get my Bluetooth headphone dealio situated, because I realized as I was airing that clip that I didn't have it set up. So that's what I'm working on right now. How's everyone's morning this going? If this is your first time joining us, Sunday service is kind of a chill hangout where me and a lot of other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses in chat kind of chill and make fun of some old JW videos. And by old, I mean brand new. Today we're going to look at stuff that's coming from the convention, their current convention series that's going. I got sent a link to a stream that happened, which you cannot watch and you cannot ask me for. I mean, you can ask me for, but I'll say no. And I don't know why I'm bothering to say that, because I said that at the beginning of the last stream, and I still got so many comments and emails asking me where they can see it and how I got it. So I don't know. But anyway, thank you for being here. I'm going to just play this real quick just to see if my headphone is hooked up right. The Inception YouTube poop that I made.
Please give close attention to the following encouragement.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I could hear it in my headphones. All right, gang. So we've got a lot of fun folks hanging out just to get into some business, to some channel business before we get into the main subject. Well, first of all, the first bit of business is my hair is crazy. I didn't really fix it this morning, so this is just about how I woke up, and then I put on one of my wife's shirts because it felt like queer adjacent, which is what I wanted to go for. Try month is over on the channel. The month of May, uploaded a new video every Monday and several other videos in between. My goal was just to try and upload as much as possible, and I did. And it was really fun. So I'm going to continue to try and upload every week because I feel like I got into a good workflow with it. But if you are a channel member or a patron, I'm going to do the monthly members only stream after this. After this stream, I think we're going to look at my old JW pictures that I have on Instagram and kind of go through some fun JW memories, like trying to find positive JW memories. As opposed to the negative memories I tend to dwell on. In the future, I want to get gaming set up, and I wasn't really able to figure it out in time. No, I don't have 2 Patreon accounts. So if there's some other interloper, let me know. So yeah, we're going to do a members-only stream. If you are like a PC gamer type person, and you're good at explaining to dumb people like myself how to set up things, shoot me an email. It's exjwfaq@gmail.com, and walk me through. I've got a Mac. I want to be able to just like emulate some N64 games. There's specifically some mods of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask that I kind of want to mess around with. But I also would like to just be able to stream my Switch. I know I have to get a capture card on my end, but I think it can be done. All right, that's been our 5 minutes of business. And today, honestly, so last time we went through some demos that I found that I thought were interesting, but I haven't gone through the full convention front to back. So I figured we would just go through and try and find stuff that's interesting. Like, we'll stop down if we find something. If it's boring, we fast forward. And I have a video, like, essay script that I'm writing that's going to be like a longer, more slightly serious video project that's about one of this series of demonstrations that they do. So that's coming down the pike. But right now, I think we're just going to watch the Cringe and see what's up.
Begins with a music video presentation.
Jesus, calm down.
The video highlights our joy in gathering for worship and
Nothing-
in declaring the good news of the kingdom.
Nothing
Please
says joy
enjoy
like this
the
guy.
video.
Joyous Ministry Video.
Okay, so this is pretty nothingy. It's the joys of setting up conventions and old people and the most uncomfortable seats in the entire world. There's not a lot here. We watched one last week that depicted the Great Tribulation. That was pretty nuts. There's one segment of this that I thought was kind of interesting, if this is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay, so the convention is very Jesus-themed, like, exclusively, and that's a bit of a shift they're making. Oh my god, Jenny, you're right. He sounds exactly like Will Ferrell's I suffer from voice modulation. Like, that's exactly what he sounds like. Also, Astara Jarvis, thank you so much for the super chat. Do people who were anointed after 1914 have an immortal soul? So that's a great question. I mean, I guess the literal answer is no, because nobody has an immortal soul. But doctrinally, the current teaching is that you can still be anointed. Like, we're still in the generation that will not pass away, because David Splain brought out the whiteboard and made a little chart and explained to everyone, hey, turns out these generations, they overlapped. So really, the generation that happened since 1914 is still ongoing. And they kind of gave them a get-out-of-jail-free card. And if you're thinking, that doesn't sound like it makes any sense, it doesn't. But I think technically you can still get on the books, anointed Christian-wise. You can still put your name in the hat and start partaking at the memorial. I think fewer and fewer people will take you seriously anymore, but that's about it. So yes, lots of glorious shots of Jesus. This is the part that I thought was weird. So this guy is reading a story about Jesus calming a storm. He looks out the window and is like, hey, there's a storm right now. And what he does is remembers that other people in the world exist, and you should check and make sure that they're okay. I found that it's really not clear what he's doing until you see what happens next. So the implication is that he's an elder or an appointed brother in the congregation, or I guess just a good guy, a nice guy, and he notices that it is storming and like people are probably losing power, and so he tries to call this sister, and instead of staying in, even though it's raining, he goes out and checks on the older sister in the congregation. They're carrying, I think, a candle, or there's a candle inside anyway, and she's just so encouraged because Jehovah's organization is so loving, as long as you never drift away or leave or anything like that. Oh, kind of gives her a derpy look there. Alright, you know what? Since we're still early in the stream, so the chat's talking right now about QC Man 2000 says, do they deliberately not choose good speakers because they think they'll become too big a star? How are all their bigwig speakers so dry? Okay, so you've accidentally stumbled upon the video that I'm hopefully going to release tomorrow, if I can keep my butt in this chair all day and edit after I do these streams. My video is on the Theocratic Ministry School does not make you a good public speaker, and it does not make you a good salesman in the traditional sense, because I've heard a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, or sorry, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and I know I thought the same thing for a while. I'm like, no, maybe the theocratic ministry school was the one benefit of being a witness, like mandatory public speaking training that gives you a skill that not everybody in the world has. It's actually like a transferable skill to the job market, but I think it doesn't make you a good speaker, and the strongest evidence of this is that the people that they put in their videos are sort of the magna cum laude graduates, even though I know you never graduate from the theocratic ministry school. And they're terrible. They're very unappealing. And if you ever gave a talk like this outside of Jehovah's Witnesses, you would be seen as a real creep. And they'd be like, hey, you're being really infantilizing and manipulative and dry and slow. So I don't think that the theocratic ministry school makes you a good speaker. I think it just only makes you good at speaking like a Jehovah's Witness and giving talks in that context. But that's anyway. So that's a little preview of content to come. God, my glasses are so smudgy. Old people visiting young people in the hospital. A lot of role reversal going on here. Doesn't she kind of look like the actress from Turtles All the Way Down? Oh my god, a panda. Why is the paradise synonymous with pandas? Okay, so you get it. Old people and young people. And then we get back to this boring guy. I don't think we need to listen to anything he has to say. He's just the chairman anyway. Shit. Okay, so this guy single-handedly has made me determined to make an awkward silent supercut. I think I'm going to take a different approach and try to actually make it an awkward silent supercut. He's got one in his talk that I won't get to, but I mean, he pauses for a solid 30 straight seconds for no reason and just looks around. Kind of pulls a Mitch McConnell, and it's a little scary, but then he just carries on like everything's fine. The first thing of note is this really goofy introduction to the Good News According to Jesus. This is the Friday morning session, so this is the first day of the convention, and a lot of the program is purely dedicated to showing the movie that they made, like showing the hour-plus long movie, and then showing clips from it and reviewing it, so there's not as much as there were in years past, but I watched the Stephen Lett part of this to make that dumb YouTube poop this morning, and basically, as soon as I heard him say the word Inception in a clip from a different part of the convention, I just wanted it to make it sound like he was talking about not understanding the movie Inception. So let's see what this is all about.
Please watch the following video.
God's word is powerful. And when I find that I'm reading the written word, that power comes through. But mainly I'm focusing on the event itself.
So this is unique in the sense that it's a lot of governing body members talking in the first person about their own experiences, and usually they say we. They talk using their royal we, because they speak and communicate as a collective hive mind. So this, I believe, is sort of a little montage about stuff that they like about the movie that they made, which, hey, I get it.
Who did what to whom and what the lesson is. An example of that is with Zechariah and Elizabeth. Now, I'm very familiar with the account. I've read it many times. But seeing it helped me to see what a setting this was.
Help me to see
what a
what
wonderful
I'm
privilege Zechariah had.
I have
and
to
all
try.
of a sudden, Gabriel appeared.
I have to try and do my Jeffrey Jackson impression. It's really hard to do, not just an Australian accent, but the sort of whispery version that he does.
I don't think I have it yet.
This.
It's early
What
yet
a
for me.
magnificent representation of Gabriel.
Oh, it's magnificent.
But after Gabriel tells Zechariah the good news, I just couldn't believe it when he says,
"How can I be sure of this?"
Couldn't believe it?
Screaming out, "Don't say that! Whatever you do, don't say that!" You see, I became emotionally involved with the account. And of course, it helped me to understand why Zechariah had a little bit of a punishment coming to him.
It does not. None of that comes through in the movie. It just seems Like, the acting is bad. It does not come through that he's, like, daring to question the angel. It just seems like he is confused because there's a creepy man who suddenly appeared in his house. Yeah, I've also never been emotionally involved with the Bible. I think the closest I got was really at, like, the Psalms and stuff as a witness. Sometimes you could force a feeling out of those, but the stories in the Bible, just reading the text, rarely ever spoke to me. I felt it a little bit when I started reading other translations, but yeah, I can't get there. I just can't get there with the Bible now, and so there's now we got old Stevie Lett, not looking great, not looking his best.
When Jesus was born, Satan tried to murder the baby Jesus. But all wise...
If it's not clear, I had many possibilities for this opening edit, and then basically, as I always did, run out of time. But we just have Stephen Lett saying, murder! So I had a lot of funny little edits. I might try and make something out of this.
Jehovah completely outwitted the devil.
Outwitted the
and
devil.
protected his precious but very vulnerable son.
Very vulnerable.
Jehovah ensured that he could grow up, become the Messiah, and preach the message Satan hates, the good news of the kingdom.
Ooh, I hate that message.
Reenacted on screen.
Satan tried to murder the baby Jesus. I really can't do a good I think if I sat down and practiced, I probably could. We'll just see if I can fall into it throughout this. In a little bit. I always think that he talks like Barney. Like, he talks like just the guy in the Barney suit. The kind of like, hey, kids, can you count to the number 3? Like, or Goofy, actually. Hey, Max! Gosh, Mickey! Like, he kind of has Goofy upside. Baby Jesus was theoretically a little enemy of God. Theoretical. It's true. Can you imagine trying to kill that little guy?
Makes me appreciate even more
Satan's
fully
so bad.
how Jehovah can protect us, no matter how weak or vulnerable we may feel in the face of Satan's attacks, and also how important it is to imitate Jesus in preaching the good news of the...
He's got quite the tie and pocket square combo. We were kind of remarking on this last week, but boy, this is like one of those magic pictures where if you blur your eyes just right, you see a shape of a horse or something. Like, it's so disorienting. It looks like it's made of 2 different kinds of fabrics. This is an expensive-ass tie, I guarantee you. And so the pocket square is equally crazy. I don't know.
Kingdom.
Well, I've long appreciated these accounts, and reading them in the Bible reminds me of the blessings that Jehovah has in store.
You know, what else was he supposed to say there? Was he supposed to say, I never really cared for the Gospels, but finally, seeing the movie, I get it now? Like, of course he had to say, oh, I always enjoyed them. Yeah, you're on the governing body. That's like one of the few job requirements, is that you like the Bible. Actually, I don't know if that's actually a job requirement. You just have to be very good at pretending like you do for years and years and years to work your way up the corporate ladder.
For all those who love him, including, of course, our dear, loyal older ones.
Ah.
And seeing the reenactment reminds me that Jehovah understood well in advance what this assignment would mean for Jesus.
Assignment.
Yet Jesus was willing to go on that journey to vindicate his Father's name and to lay the basis for eternal life for all those who respond favorably to the good news.
All right, son, I got an assignment for you. Everybody on Earth is talking all this shit about me because I keep on playing favorites and killing a lot of people with natural disasters and starving people, committed several genocides. So people are all upset about me. So I need your assignment to go down the earth, be born as a baby. You're going to forget who you were. And then at the age of 30, your memories will be unlocked like in a video game, and then you're gonna preach about how I'm awesome for about 3 years, and then you're gonna be killed, and I'm just gonna kind of watch. I'm not gonna stop it, and then you'll just come right on back. You'll just come right back up to heaven. Like, that was the assignment. I don't know. Can we play at 1.5 speed? Actually, no, because I'm using... This is just like some download of a stream, and I'm using the StreamYard player, and it doesn't have... Unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, it doesn't have a way to speed it up. But...
So it's our hope and desire that our brothers and sisters,
I think it's good that we
as
get
they
the full
watch
experience.
these video presentations, will feel as if they were there, and they're part of the event. And this will help them to remember all the details. But more importantly, that
this Golden Bible they have is technically something you can get. I think you can order it if you're just a Jehovah's Witness, like order it from the Literature Servant. It's the printed edition of their study edition. So most people just use this on their tablet, the study edition that has little notes in the margins and tons of extra pictures and charts and maps and scholarship, but it's not. It's their pseudo-scholarship. But they do have printed versions of it, and it's gold, and it has gold pages. And I'm pretty sure it's just the Gospels. I think it's Gospels and maybe Acts. I don't have one of these, a physical copy, but I also don't think a lot of JWs do.
will build appreciation and love for Jesus, and in turn, that will strengthen their love for Jehovah. And of course, once you get excited about these stories, that helps us to continue to boldly preach the good news of the kingdom.
Great. That was great. Thank you for that. Yeah, I did the thing. I accidentally clicked out of the studio. But I think that's actually the only relevant thing we can even watch on that day, because after that, they just play the movie, and that's the rest of the Friday morning program. So I'm going to pull up part 2.
There is an ongoing need for volunteers at Bethel and on theocratic construction projects. As you watch the following video, please note the spirit displayed by those who make themselves available for Bethel service.
Great. Okay, so this is something they probably made before, but I don't remember it. So most of the clips I showed from Stephen Lett, where he's like, I'm not smart enough, that's from a Bethel intro thing that I definitely want to watch. It's very funny and weird. But so that's, I guess, what this is going to be. Also, someone says that they're here from Arizona. Can we get, like, a roll call of, like, where people are from? Because that's always fun. I'm in Ohio. If you're outside the U.S., let me know. And let me know what's going on and what you think of the accents that I do.
Making yourself available for Bethel service is like knocking on a door that leads to many other privileges of service.
I guess I do remember this, actually. I don't need to say this. All right, let's look at Roger Sterling's talk here. What a fit he's got. Let's see if there's anything interesting here.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were no ordinary writers or historians who just documented extraordinary events of their time. No, like all Bible writers, they spoke from God. The Apostle Peter makes that clear for us in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 21. Let's read that together.
Yeah.
2 Peter 1.
This guy's boring me.
When he said that all...
All right, let's see what kind of videos they got. I'm already kind of over this. All right, cool. Now we're getting to some visually interesting things happening. Whoa! Let's notice. Let's see what he wants us to notice, because I guarantee you just about anything he says it. He does have Bond villain energy, particularly like Brosnan-era Bond. The villain from a 1940s war film that gets daddified by viewers. Okay, by the way, we've got people from Texas, Alberta, Canada, North Carolina, several people from North Carolina, Minnesota, Michigan, Vienna, the sausage capital of the world. Any relation to Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago? I'm really jealous of all these North Carolina people. Calgary, California, Germany, Illinois. Germany and Illinois are two pretty different places. Colorado, Thailand. Please let me know if this is true or false, because that would be cool. Michigan, Grant, Alabama. More people from Alberta, New Jersey, from Ohio in Nebraska now. I had there was a couple in my old hall where they became a missionary couple. I think they're still in Columbus, but she was originally from Nebraska, and the guy was assigned, moved from Ohio to Nebraska, and now they're back in Ohio. That was not interesting, and I'm sorry that I said that. USA, but originally from Poland. That's where my mom's side of the family is from, is Poland. So that's where I get my awesome nose from.
Of the same scriptures. As you watch the following video, please note some additional reasons why we can be confident that Jehovah inspired Matthew to write his gospel.
It has been said that without writing a single line, Jesus set more pens in motion than any other man.
More pens in motion than any other man.
None are better known than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Luke, John,
in this
Johnny boy.
We will journey through time to see some of the earliest known manuscripts that contain their work, and precious fragments of manuscripts that came before.
Precious fragments of manuscripts
been transmitted accurately down to our day. Do they truly bear evidence that their
You might call these manuscripts survival lucky charms.
Travel with us to find out.
Sorry. Whoa.
In the late 1800s, archaeologists...
When men were men and had mustaches like that. This is actually indistinguishable from a modern millennial fashionista. This is exactly something you could wear now. They're giving like H&M almost.
Leonard Grenfell and Arthur Hunt went to Egypt in search of ancient Christian documents. Soon, under the centuries' worth of rubbish near the town of Oxyrhynchus, they struck gold in the form of documents written on papyrus.
Nice try, Star Wars!
At the time they discovered it, this single leaf was part of the oldest known copy of Matthew.
I guess I should stop focusing on the accent and start focusing on what exactly they're trying to convey here. I have to imagine... Well, obviously they said that they are trying to just prove that Matthew's inspired of God, which, okay. But they're probably also going to go out of their way... Sorry, I'm just moving this crap beneath the desk here so I can scoot a little... Get a little more comfy. They're probably going to try and find justification for inserting the divine name into the New Testament, which they do not have justification for doing, by the way. Watch my video on the JW Bible to find out, but their own Bible, in the appendix in the New World Translation, says that they don't have the original manuscripts, but they feel confident that if they did have the original manuscripts, they would have the divine name in them. So that's a little convenient. Right. We were all just having a little adventure in the medieval Highlands.
At the top, it bears the words
of Matthew
1, verse
flowing orange hair,
book of the history of
like Merida.
This fragment was the earliest witness to the greatest
early in the morning
walked the earth. In the years that followed, Grenfell and Hunt collected some 500,000 fragments at Oxyrhynchus, many of which are biblical and now reside right here in Oxford. Amongst them...
You can tell that they're trying to boost how impressive this all sounds. It's like 500,000 fragments, some of them biblical. Like, well, okay, maybe give us the amount of biblical fragments you found.
Other fragments from Matthew. Analyzing and understanding these manuscripts and scraps became known as papyrology. deciphering
Papyrology.
letters and words, putting the pieces
That's when they give
together.
you a pap smear.
Painstaking work, like doing a fragile jigsaw puzzle. To keep track of
Everything he says is fun. Fragile jigsaw puzzle.
significant.
Sorry, I know my
scripture
accent's not very
papyri,
good.
Referencing systems were developed, typically a number preceded by the letter P. For
Oh,
papyrus.
no doubt.
So, for example,
We don't have any Scotsmen in the book, though,
P77.
unfortunately.
It's in two pieces, but they're from the very same page.
Oh,
This one is
two little
P77.
pieces of 77
It
from the
contains
same
portions of
page.
16 verses, including the earliest record of Jesus' prophecy. that
Yeah.
The good news of the kingdom.
Are they going to talk about, like, the fragments they found of the Gospel of Thomas, by any chance? Or, like, the Gospel of Peter and all the apocryphal, like, Gnostic books? Okay, so this is some bullshit, and we don't necessarily need to see all this. I will say, there is a YouTube channel where they work at, I think it's in England, it's some kind of archive where they have old books, and they just do a channel where they have people come in, like celebrities come in, and they'll just show them these like old first edition books, and it is very satisfying. So I would have been very into this as a witness. It's not bad, it's just it only exists to try and bolster, like, guys, we really put a lot of work into this Jesus movie. Let's see. Doesn't it seem like this guy should be Scottish after everything we've seen? Hey! I just know that this guy's going to have a quintessential Jehovah's Witness voice.
To them, you start to think to yourself, I don't know what I'm going to say or how I'm going to respond. And then you immediately pray to Jehovah for his Holy Spirit. Has that ever happened to you?
That ever happened to you? They let you join the Turbo team? Alright, let's see what video this guy has. He's really going for facial expressions. Ooh, our boy's back.
No wonder the very first verse of this gospel declares
Verse.
it to be the good news.
The very
of our
first
kingdom.
verse.
It's the perfect opening line.
Perfect.
When it comes to the book's conclusion, however, there has been some controversy. In fact, 3 different versions of it have circulated for centuries. How can we know which one to trust?
Controversies, yes.
The earliest Bible manuscripts can help.
Casually wrapped in paper, the Codex Sinaiticus is on its way to the British Museum.
The Codex
Museum.
Sinaiticus is the earliest...
Oh, old-timey newsreels. My favorite thing. That is not a joke. This is good, though. This will force me to actually talk about things of substance instead of just doing voices. The fact that Jesus was resurrected 3 days later arguably makes the ransom sacrifice meaningless. How is it really a sacrifice if he's resurrected? He didn't give his life. He gave up his weekend. I hadn't thought of it like that. That's really smart. I mean, in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense that he died for our sins, but we still sin and have to beg for forgiveness for them, and if we don't, we can be punished, you know, either in Armageddon or hell or whatever Christian theology you believe in. Like, what exactly did it accomplish? Because if it's for our sins, then why are we still sinning, and what was the point? I know that sounds kind of basic and dumb, but, like, I just truly, logistically, I don't understand it. I don't understand how it was supposed to work. I know that's kind of Reddit Atheist 101 kind of stuff, but that's my issue.
Script that preserves the...
Oh, God, TWH shows up every week. We have to put... okay, so here's what's interesting about TWH. He shows up every week and accuses people in the stream of being obsessed with Jehovah's Witnesses, which is interesting because it seems like you're obsessed with the stream, you know? Well, I wouldn't say that I'm obsessed any more than Jehovah's Witnesses are obsessed with their own religion. I think I'm less obsessed with Jehovah's Witnesses than a Jehovah's Witness. The answer is that this is what the channel is about. I do videos doing rebuttals to stuff that they teach. There are videos for basically every religion or ex-members of that religion. They leave and then they're like, hey, here's what stuff this religion teaches and why it's not true. So that's why I do it. I like it when people who used to be like Jesuit Christians, like Apologia, that's a good channel that I like. You know, he likes talking about it because obviously it constituted a huge part of his life. And so for me, I was witness for almost 30 years. And so obviously most of my life was spent in the religion. And so I think about it a lot, but I have a different perspective. And a lot of people find value in processing what they went through by talking about it. I especially find value in taking a lighthearted approach, you know, so I can finally laugh at the things that have caused me trauma. Now, I know I just gave you a very good faith interpretation, but the rest of the comments kind of mean. I understand that you may have been once, but you really should move on and get a life. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this, DWH, but I stream once a week on Sundays. So there's a whole other, like most of the time, I'm not just doing this. You know, kind of how once a week on your Sunday, you come to some stream that you apparently hate and try and tell me to stop doing it. But yeah, I do have a job. I actually have 2 jobs. I have many hobbies. I do have a family. I don't know why you think that because you happen to be watching somebody streaming currently that like you then think that that's all they do literally all the time, but it's not true. So fuck off and shut the fuck up and leave us alone, asshole.
Entire Greek scriptures. It was the work of at least 3 trained scribes in the 4th century.
Trained scribes?
Earlier texts.
Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, rather thin, isn't it? Accumulated through the centuries behind the walls of the Vatican Library is
the Codex Vaticanus is also...
Whoa, hang on a second. DWH is their name. Wasn't DW Dorothy Winifred? Wasn't that Arthur's sister in the cartoon Arthur? So this may be Arthur's sister, who famously, signs don't stop her because she can't read. So we should keep that in mind.
Also dated to the 4th century, and although a few portions have been lost over time, the Gospels remain completely intact. These priceless manuscripts are regarded as key sources by modern Bible translators. And here at our Bethel Museum in Britain,
this person comes like every week for some reason. They're a frequent flyer, so they've only posted 1 or 2 in this chat, but they tend to stop by.
360 animals would have been needed to produce the Codex Sinaiticus alone.
Codex Sinaiticus. Okay, so this is legit boring. I'm going to fast forward through this actually because that's okay. This is all this is. But we do need to check in on our bearded friends. I think we should give a good faith effort to try and listen to a frickin', you know. Let's listen to it talk. Let's see if we can make it through one talk. Hey, Opal Lunar. No, I like doing the poor accents. I don't know why you think my accent is poor. It's like you think that I'm not taking it seriously or something.
The good news.
Like I'm kind of kidding, and I'm not. This is a serious stream about serious things.
Luke, and we'll conclude with the good news, according to John.
Yeah.
We will leave this symposium.
I find that this talk was very touching. My gag reflex.
4 men were moved by Holy Spirit. What great evidence we have already heard about. But when we view this well-crafted, colorful mosaic of 4 writers, we see it as rich, we see it as complete, and as we've explained, absolutely trustworthy.
I like stuff like this, where he's just like, we are convinced of the Bible. We are. Damn it. Are you not convinced?
Not only the content, but the writers themselves. As we get to see...
Which, by the way, nobody... Okay.
Life, ministry, purpose, and message.
Let's do this. Let's do something. nobody thinks, nobody who's not an idiot, no like serious scholars who are respected think that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote the books Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so I have here the New Oxford Annotated Bible. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses pretends to have, but this is by like a non-denominational group of Christian scholars and Jewish scholars, you know, people who are just dedicated their life to studying ancient manuscripts and determining the authorship of them. And so I just thought, fuck it, let's look at what it says for Matthew, since that's what they're going on about. And we can get a sense of what actual scholars say about who wrote the Gospels. I'm having a hard time finding it, I must admit. How does the Bible work again? Oh, okay. So if we look at Matthew, authorship, date, and place of composition. So this is like their scholarly intro to the... I'm so self-conscious that anybody saw me get up and see the shape of my body and what I'm wearing. I'm essentially wearing pajamas. Okay, so it says, judgments about the authorship of this gospel hinge significantly on which view of the synoptic problem is accepted. The following discussion accepts the two-document hypothesis as the most satisfactory solution to understanding how the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke relate to each other. On this reading, the Gospel of Mark was the author's chief source, together with a hypothetical sayings source that he shared with Luke, designated Q, in some 210 verses unique to Matthew, M. This will make a little bit more sense if I keep reading. If you've not heard of like the Q and M sources, this will be confusing, but it's really interesting. From the early 2nd century, the Gospel's author was identified as Matthew, one of the 12 disciples. This attribution to Matthew appears to be signaled by chapter 9, verse 9, where Mark's reference to Levi, the tax collector, is changed to Matthew, the tax collector. This change could be a subtle allusion to the Gospel's author, and for centuries it was regarded as such. If, however, the evangelist's main sources were the Gospel of Mark and Q, it is difficult to explain why one of the 12 disciples should be so heavily reliant on a gospel that was thought to have been written by someone who is not one of Jesus' disciples. Wouldn't Matthew have had a rich store of experience to draw upon? It is, of course, possible that some of the Gospel's unique materials do originate with Matthew, the disciple, but most scholars hold that the author/editor is someone other than the disciple Matthew, even if, as here, he is referred to as Matthew out of convenience. So let me see what it says for the date, but I don't know. I think that stuff's really interesting, you know, like pretty much nobody thinks that actually Matthew wrote the whole thing, and the disciples are said to be unlettered and ordinary. Like, I think very few of them were even, I don't know if anybody actually knows if they were able to write, but essentially, like, what they're saying with this Q source thing is that there's a lot of things in Matthew that are directly, like, word for word lifted from Mark when you look at the original manuscripts. So scholars believe that Matthew used Mark as a source, but he also clearly had another source, because Luke and Matthew seem to share word for word things from another source, if I'm remembering all that correctly. Anyway, that's not necessarily that important. That was just an ADHD rabbit hole that really didn't need to happen, and it was probably boring. And looks like DHW is back, I meant to say. Well, I did, by the way. Okay, so first of all, DHW, you've commented on here before, and I'm pretty sure I've told you that you should reach out to me. I would be happy to interview you on the stream. I'm always interested in talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think, like, if you watch the interview that I have done with a Jehovah's Witness on the channel, like, it's a very nice, respectful discussion. I know that I told you to fuck off earlier, but that was just as a joke. You got to understand from my standpoint, I just think that cursing is funny and not a big deal. But I know it is when you're a witness. It would be a more balanced and informative discussion for all, would be more interesting than just criticizing. Well, no, I like that would be interesting to do once in a while, but if it was the only thing I ever did, well, that wouldn't be interesting to me. And I don't have to do anything. I just do YouTube and make stuff that's fun for me. And I like just kind of reacting to weird videos like this. And also, I like criticizing stuff. I was a critic, even as a witness. Like, I was a video game critic for a while for some websites. So it's just kind of in my blood somewhere, I think. Let's see if... I always like when DWH comes back and hangs out. Somebody tell John Turner my backstory.
Of our Lord
or
Jesus
link
Christ.
him to the video where I talk about everything.
When compared to the other three, John's gospel is unique in a number of ways. Let's just mention three. First of all, it was written 30 years after the other gospel works were already circulating.
I don't know that date is right. So one word that I read in that Oxford Study Bible that you might not know about is like because you don't hear this term as a Jehovah's Witness, the Synoptic Gospels. The Synoptic Gospels are Mark, Matthew, Luke. Those are those Gospels. And then John was written so far afterward that it's considered its own thing. And a lot of the contents of it contradict earlier Gospels. It is considered to be like the least historically useful, people who are trying to figure out who the historical Jesus is, as opposed to the mythic figure. Historians obviously can't examine supernatural claims. We can't prove using history that somebody that somebody rose from the dead. But we can determine some of the things that they said when they were alive. And so stuff that reoccurs throughout the Synoptic Gospels is often used as evidence of who the historical Jesus figure was. And then when it gets into stuff that is somebody walking on water or doing a miracle, those are where historians start attributing myth and urban legend. I actually don't know why I'm talking about this at all. I'm very sorry.
Another way is that 90% of this account is only contained in
Hour
John's
2 of this
Gospel
stream is going to be lit.
In our study edition of the
Hour
Bible
1,
in the introduction.
I don't know.
We learn that John's Gospel alone discusses Jesus' pre-human existence. 6 miracles are unique to John's account.
It's funny that they don't see this as evidence that the Gospels don't really hold up as a cohesive unit, that they contradict each other, they don't seem to be in agreement. And also, if you really wanted to tell a story about Jesus, if you wanted to tell his life and get across some sort of theology that people are supposed to follow for true worship, having different accounts that contradict each other is kind of the worst way to do that, don't you think? So, what do I know?
Including Jesus' first miracle of turning water into wine and his last miracle after his being resurrected of the huge catch of fish.
I'll let this play. This is a good comment from Maria. I came across a reel yesterday that said the Bible is a book of gossip, and it made perfect sense. Everything is inspired, can't be corroborated by the primary source. And for the most part, those who wrote the books aren't the ones in the stories. Yeah, we're all going back. We all realized that actually this 100% makes total sense. God is real, and he's really going to destroy us all super soon if we don't get back. He is love, and he loves us so much. He doesn't want to murder us in Armageddon. These guys are good at giving talks. It doesn't matter that no Bible scholars agree with anything that they say, and that their translation of the Bible is considered to be a complete joke. We're going back. Let's check in with our Irish friend before we say goodbye to him forever, because he is, in some ways responsible for a fairly fairly iffy Friday AM. I mean, if you think this stream is boring, I do not accept blame. I simply won't, and I can't. I can only react to what they're giving me.
Note additional reasons.
I'm
for
obviously
having
doing 10 out of 10
that
flawless
Jehovah
work here.
inspired John to write the gospel.
Kidding.
John, the last gospel to be written. Yet this account takes us farther back in time than any other. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. P66 and P75 present.
Yeah, you're right, but of course they do actually contradict each other. Should we just like try and watch a Bart Ehrman interview or something? Would that be interesting to people? Let me pull up YouTube so I can do polls and stuff. Because if we just want to cringe at these guys, I'll just skip to a different part. If we're interested in getting into like learning something, we can also do that. So let me start a little poll here. Start a poll. What do? So what do we want to do? All right. A perfect poll, perfectly phrased. And we'll just keep an eye on that. Let's watch a little bit of this Irish guy just because I like his accent.
Those words. The earliest record of the earliest moments of
earliest
pre-human existence.
John's religious opposers viewed him as uneducated and ordinary. His vocabulary was smaller than most other writers of the Greek scriptures.
That's interesting. I have not heard that about his vocabulary. Well, while we're here, let me see if I can find like a short Bart Ehrman video. Gospel contradictions. Probably the best way to do it would be like, okay, so here's a Myth Vision video. It's short. And Myth Vision is good. I almost said friend of the channel, but I've never had him on the channel. But I would be happy to. Myth Vision's pretty good. Let me remove this real quick. Let's just get a counter argument to what Watchtower's saying here. So Bart Ehrman is probably the most like famous and one of the more respected New Testament scholars. He's written some really excellent books that I recommend. I've recommended them before. I would say like you could even get a witness to read his one book, like How Jesus Became God, because it really is about how the Trinity doctrine developed. And I think a witness could get kind of caught up in that and start to think like, oh, well, see, look, the society's right. This is a pagan teaching. And it's like, yeah, it is. That doesn't mean that Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth. It just means that, yes, as it happens, the Trinity as a interpretation developed later. So let's see what Derek and Bart are chomping it up about.
Myth Vision. Welcome back to Myth Vision Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to do, go down in the description.
No, don't listen to
Check out the
him.
upcoming webinar on the. I think it's related to the topic, but I don't want to give away too many goodies. I want everybody to go and join us at the webinar to get their Christmas present from Santa Claus. And there you go.
As I understand it, Bart identifies as an agnostic atheist. Thank you.
It's pretty.
Oh, my amazing wife, Christina, just gave me a cup of coffee. And bonus points. This this mug that says "Oceans Rise, Empires Fall," that has a stormtrooper with a crown on it, was a Christmas gift given to me by an ex-Jehovah's Witness friend, combining my extremely Caucasian love of both Star Wars and the musical Hamilton.
There you go. So I want to talk about 3 to 5 of your favorite contradictions. They're all subjective. This is your decision, and we'll just start with one and work from there. I'd like to pick 3 to 5 major contradictions in the New Testament
it's really,
that you really enjoy.
Let me know if the volume's all right.
Okay, I'll tell you. First one I'll tell you is the one that made me realize that that the Bible's not inerrant. If people have read my stuff, they might have heard this one. But in Mark chapter 2, so let me just say, I was a fundamentalist. I thought there was no mistakes in the Bible of any kind, no contradictions.
Shit, I'm sorry. I'll mute myself if I take a sip.
Like fundamentalists today still can. And so in Mark chapter 2, Jesus' disciples are going through the fields of grain. It's a Sabbath. They're hungry. They peel off some grain. They start eating it. And the Pharisees see them doing it. I guess Pharisees are in every corner in Galilee watching to see if people are eating grain on the Sabbath. They're doing it, and the Pharisees get really upset, and they say, "Jesus, your disciples are harvesting grain on the Sabbath. You can't do that." And tell them to stop. And Jesus says, "Look, don't you remember what King David did when Abiathar was the high priest? He went into the temple and ate the showbread with his people, with his men, because they were hungry, even though only the priests are supposed to eat it. Sabbath was made for humans, not humans for the Sabbath." And so you have the story. So I had this class at Princeton Seminary.
I'm going to get through this first contradiction that he's talking about before addressing some of the stuff in chat. But if you're just joining us, we're watching this as a counterpoint to Watchtower's entire convention, which is about how amazing and perfect and coherent the Gospels are.
Interpretation of Mark. My first semester is like we studied Mark in Greek. And
who we do love.
At the end, we had to write a term paper. I wrote a term paper on this passage because this passage says that this took place in the Old Testament when Abiathar was the high priest. But the Old Testament says that it took place when Ahimelech was the high priest, Abiathar's father. So I wrote a 30-page paper arguing that, in fact, even though it says that Abiathar was the high priest, it means that Ahimelech was the high priest. It's a very complicated argument, and with the
this is what witnesses do.
Of the Greek and style. I already, so 30 pages later, boom, it really was Ahimelech, and Jesus knew it. So at the end, my teacher was very pious and very devout Christian, but he wasn't a fundamentalist, but he was a very devout Christian. And he liked my paper, gave me an A on the paper. Then at the bottom he said, maybe Mark just made a mistake. And I thought, that would be easier than a 30-page paper that's dancing around the problem. Yeah, okay. So once I realized that, it opened the floodgate. After that, I started finding all sorts of contradictions. And the thing is that sometimes they're big.
Okay, so this I like. I like this example because what Watchtower does, and things like the Insight book and Aid to Bible Understanding, I remember growing up and reading those books, which they are kind of like your guide to the Bible. And now they've got a lot of that stuff just integrated in the Bible itself, in the New World Translation. But each of them, like the Oxford Study Bible that I have there, would have a segment like canonicity, date it was written. What's it like? I don't know what the right word would be for it, but whether or not it's inspired of God. And so every time it would be like, the inspired nature of the book of Hezekiah is not in question. And sometimes it would say, there is some debate among scholars, but ultimately it is not in question. And I would always be like, why, if it's not in question, why are they even bringing it up? Like, why? It would be like if I started my stream by being like, yeah, I know that there's a lot of people who are saying that I throw eggs at my neighbor's house every day while wearing nothing but a diaper. But that is simply not the case for the following reasons. It's like, well, we wouldn't have even thought that unless you brought it up. It's such a specific thing. Okay, to just address a couple of things. So I like this because his instinct was Watchtower's instinct to make a long, convoluted fan fiction scenario to justify how these two different names could somehow mean the same name. And then his teacher's like, well, maybe Mark just made a mistake, but anyway, good paper. But it hadn't occurred to him that the actual simpler explanation is that there was a mistake. You're just not allowed to consider that option when you're a Christian, and you must believe that everything is inspired or else. I would also say it doesn't make the Trinity false. I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in any of it. But I think that the development of the Trinity is attempting to make sense of the clear contradictions that exist in all of the various Pauline texts and all of the Gospels, not just the Gospels that are in the canonical Bible, but all of the Gospels that did not make it into the Bible canon, all of the sayings, passages of Jesus, like the Trinity, the idea that Jesus was God, and also the other guy was God, and also the Holy Spirit was God, and they're all one. Like, it developed as an answer to a problem, much like Bart Ehrman trying to reconcile a bunch of different things at once. Anyway, let's hear a couple of other contradictions.
And sometimes they're little. But if somebody's a fundamentalist, the big ones don't bother you because you can explain those away. Those are easy. It's the little ones that you think, oh, God, how do you do that? For example, here's another favorite one of mine. In the Gospel of Mark, I think it's chapter 5, there's a man who's a leader of a synagogue whose daughter has gotten sick.
This is my favorite.
He comes up to Jesus and he says to Jesus, my daughter's sick, and could you come heal her because she's going to die? And Jesus says, okay. So Jesus starts going to his house, and before he can get there, he gets interrupted. Another thing happens. Somebody bothers, and he has to deal with this other thing. And by this time, the man's daughter's died. So he gets there, and it's too late. She's dead. I'm too late. Jesus says, "Don't worry about it. I'll heal her."
Bart Ehrman is just such a good storyteller. If you've never listened to his lectures, there's such a joy. He is a fantastic teacher and a key example of how Watchtower teaching is so bad. Like, you can just listen to him talk forever about the Bible, even though he's an atheist, because he's so knowledgeable and he's so good at conveying why the stories caught on. So I just love listening to Bart Ehrman.
So he goes into the room, she's dead, and he raises her from the dead. That's Mark's gospel. Matthew's gospel says that what happened is, this guy's name is Jairus, by the way. His name is Jairus. So this is the story of Jairus' daughter, Jairus. And so in Matthew, it says, this man Jairus comes up to Jesus and he says, my daughter has just died. Can you do anything about it?
If you sleep on your side, I bet you and this is why.
Damn it. Hang on.
In Mark's gospel, she wasn't dead yet. The whole point is she wasn't dead yet. But in Matthew, she comes in, my daughter died. Can you do? So Jesus goes and he raises her from the dead. Okay, but it's like, which was it? It couldn't be both. So when I was a graduate student, I started to leave my view of the inerrancy of the Bible, that it was infallible. And we had a visiting scholar from Scandinavia who was a very famous scholar who thought, he had these ideas about things and who thought that there weren't mistakes in the New Testament. So I said, okay, so you got with the story of Jairus, like she's sick and then she dies, and the other one, she's dead ahead of time. So I said, which is it? And he said to me, it happened twice. First time it happened, the girl was sick and then she died. And later, like in a later episode, she had died again, and she was, oh my God, are you serious?
Oh, man.
That's funny. I hadn't heard that. Okay, well, I think we got it. So that's just a alternative perspective on the veracity of the Bible. On the gospel specifically, I guess I should say. All right, so let's get to a more fun. We made it an hour of apparently a very boring part of the convention. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this and kind of planning your mandatory visit to your JW family, and you're like, oh God, all right, I could go to the convention. Which day am I going to bother with? I say skip Friday in its entirety. Very boring. I think this is the one. Okay, so I want to play this because the Stephen Lett clip I played from the beginning is from this very strange video they play, and it's very funny. and I
School
love
for
it.
Kingdom Evangelizers equips qualified pioneers to expand their ministry further. Could you attend this school? Before you answer, please give close attention to the following encouragement.
I should do like personal study. Read How Jesus Became God by Bart Ehrman. Ooh, that's not a bad idea if we want to take a second. I guess we already did take a second between parts, but it might be interesting just as a video or as a conversation later in the stream. Like, what are some books that aren't related to Jehovah's Witnesses that could get a Jehovah's Witness to wake up? People always ask that about documentaries, and the answer is always like, any cult documentary is going to probably get him thinking, TBH. I've had in my back pocket for years, since I started the channel, I've wanted to make a video on the pop culture that woke me up, like stuff that had nothing to do with Jehovah's Witnesses, but just because of events, like in a film or a show. It served some purpose in my waking up process, so I love stuff like that.
Since its inception in 2014, the School for Kingdom Evangelizers has accomplished much good in the worldwide field.
What is this belly thing? I can't even get my stomach in frame, but he does this like, his hands are down at his stomach, and like, the worldwide field. And he thinks he's like serving. Like, he really thinks he's crushing it. Like, this is his move.
This 2-month school,
the Poisonwood Bible,
train experienced pioneers.
I've never read.
Willing to serve.
Okay, I've never read the Poisonwood Bible, but I remember when that book came out, because I just remember seeing it everywhere and thinking it was such a cool name, like as a kid. So anytime, just as a joke, someone mentions the Bible, I'm like, the Poisonwood Bible? And I actually don't have any idea what it is or what it's about, but I'm just... Damn it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Man, oh man. This button is so sensitive.
The School for Kingdom...
All right, let me get back to our boy.
To serve wherever they're needed. And while many have eagerly reached out...
That's what I get for talking about the Poisonwood Bible.
Others hold back. Why?
Why?
Some might reason, I'm content where I am. I have a good job that supports my pioneering.
So he's listing excuses why people don't join the School for Kingdom Evangelizers or become pioneers. And he uses the most infantilizing, condescending tone. Like, have you ever said something stupid like this? So that's the context of this. And I also just like hearing him say these things. Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm an idiot.
I'm not smart enough. My circumstances don't allow it. They don't need me. There are plenty of others who can reach out. Well, can you relate to any of these feelings? The governing body understands.
Except they fucking don't, obviously. They don't understand. They haven't had to understand how normal people live their lives for decades. Like, I don't know that anybody's ever been fast-tracked to the governing body. They have to at least have several decades of being only a Bethelite at their disposal. Like, I don't know if people know this, but they don't recruit old Bethelites. They don't, like, you have to be below a certain age to qualify for Bethel. So when you see old guys giving these talks, it's because they've stuck around for a really long time in this cult compound. And so they don't understand what it's like. But this is a criticism that clearly gets under their skin, because David Splain brought that up in his talk about stuff apostates say. He's like, they might say that we're out of touch. Can you imagine such a thing? And here, David Lett, whatever his fucking name is, Stephen Lett's like, we understand. even though he just essentially did a dumb guy voice making fun of excuses that people might have for not being able to be SKE.
It's not easy to uproot oneself and venture into the unknown.
I think that's exactly...
Before you dismiss applying for SKE, there's a beautiful reason why you should consider it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
What is it?
Speaking of which, a strong and unexpectedly strong contender for the next JW Word Whisker Supercut is beautiful. I just inadvertently, when I was making that, happened upon so many times where they say that something is beautiful. A beautiful example. You just talked about a beautiful reason. I didn't know that a reason for something could be beautiful.
To find out, we warmly invite you to come to the SKE meeting
warmly
during the
invite
noon
you
hour tomorrow. We hope you can make it.
Creepy! So it says it was filmed in 2019, so this must have been playing at the last several conventions, but I think 2019 was probably the last convention I went to, and I was like Pimo without knowing that there was a word for that yet, because I hadn't looked at apostate stuff. So, that's where I was at. Oh. Well, he's going to play a clip or something about the Jesus movie. Let's watch it. My video on the Jesus movie was not exactly comprehensive.
According to Jesus, and then we're going to identify the prophecies that were fulfilled.
And your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to name him.
And literally love did
John.
fail, ironically.
You will have joy and great gladness, and many will rejoice over his
Let
birth.
is truly Ricky Bobby
He will be
being
great
like
in
the
the sight
hands
of
like slowly
Jehovah.
rising out of frame.
But he must drink no wine or any alcoholic drink at all, and he will be filled with Holy Spirit even from before birth.
Oh,
And he
word,
will turn
Andy?
back
You want to
many of the
elaborate?
sons of Israel to Jehovah their God. Also, he will go ahead of him.
Also,
with Elijah's spirit and power, to turn back the hearts of fathers to children, to the disobedient ones,
his
to
face,
the practical wisdom of righteous ones, in order to get ready for Jehovah, a prepared people.
So, like, this is just... Doesn't matter if you lived in Bible times or in the future when the Great Tribulation's happening. They think that people have always and should always talk like this. They should talk like creeps trying to trick children into getting into a van.
So according to the prophecy
smattering of
recorded
applause.
in Malachi chapter 3, verse 1, and Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, the Messiah would be
Malachi
preceded
chapter 4,
by a
verse 5.
messenger who would be like Elijah
Oh.
in being a forerunner to the Christ. Let's read these prophecies.
Let's read these prophecies. So boring. They are not sending their best and brightest. Now, literally, this guy's the brightest. Like, if we're being honest. All right, let's see the next little bit of Jesus. The next little bit of Jesus and the next little bit of Peach.
Peaches, Jesus.
Oh, yes, the good news according to Peaches. Hello. You don't want to be on camera?
I don't look very good.
Oh, stop it.
Nah.
Christina's feeling self-conscious, and so's Peach, but she just doesn't have a choice.
That is
The
true.
good news according to Peaches Kreitz.
Christ.
Christ. It's pronounced Christ. I don't know if you noticed that in the movie. He says Jesus' name wrong. That movie fucking sucked. The Jesus movie, did it not?
It was the worst.
And am I lying? We literally tried to record commentary and it was too boring.
Yep, it's true. It was unfortunate.
It was just us ranting about how boring it is.
And I was like getting ready to like start my summer semester, so I was like doing other shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so distracted by how boring this is.
Yeah. And so watching little clips like this is probably the best way to experience it.
Symposium is we're unwrapping.
Oh, okay. All y'all love yourselves. We do. We love we love what we got going on. Boredom is kind of like an apostasy amphetamine, right? Like getting bored at the meetings and just starting to notice how boring they are. Oof.
Traveling messianic prophecy to reveal the fulfillment so that we understand them better. We can almost think of each talk in this symposium as being like a folded tapestry. We're slowly unfolding it, and by the end we get the complete picture that convinces us without doubt Jesus was the Messiah and is the light of the world.
Wow.
Let's watch
if he doesn't say so himself. Let's talk, you might call it something like a tapestry. My talk, kind of a work of art. You might think of it that way. You may.
Good news according to Jesus video, and then identify 2 aspects of prophecy that we'll consider.
No joke.
You will become pregnant.
Pregnant. You'll become pregnant. I want to hear him say that again. Oh, I wish StreamYard had better controls.
You will become pregnant.
Pregnant.
And give birth to a son. And you are to name him Jesus.
The little like.
This one will be great and will be called Son of the Most High. And Jehovah God will give him the throne of David his father, and he will rule as king over the house of Jacob forever. And there will be no end to his kingdom.
Ooh, I could definitely do a supercut, because he says Christ, which sounds like my last name, and he says Jacob, so I could make something like a channel intro where this guy says, like, Jacob Christ. That could be fun. Sorry, I'm like in editor brain mode, because I know I'm going to have to edit later.
How is this to be? Since I'm not having sexual relations with a man.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit will come upon you and power.
This is a guy you'd feel
High
comfortable
will
divulging your
overshadow
sexual history to in the middle of the night.
And for that reason, the one who is born will be called holy, God's Son.
Yeah, why isn't it Emmanuel? So why is this not...
So this,
in my opinion, I don't really know how to justify making it a video, but I think it's just a fucking scam. And it's kind of gross, actually, how much money that they pilfered from old and poor and unfortunate people to make something that, you know, they bragged about making all these sets, and they did. Like, they built entire towns, and they got animals like goats and sheep, and they had animal trainers, but it looks cheap and the acting is bad. And I think that the reaction that I would have is just sheer embarrassment that they hyped this up for so long and the final product is like this. It's like my worst nightmare with the book, right? A couple million? Oh, I think it's more than a couple million. I mean... Oh, by the way, yeah, like the stream. I always forget to tell people to do that, but we've got 184 people watching, so we should have 184 well, we should have 183, because obviously DHW didn't like it. But Wally guesstimated a couple million. I'm trying to think about a recent low-budget movie. Yeah, they could probably do it for... Like, the number in my head is 8 million. That would be like an $8 million worldly horror movie. You could make something like that. Number 8 million in your head because that's how many Jehovah's Witnesses. Christina just said, are you thinking that because there's 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses? And now I'm like, ah, damn it, she's probably right. What's a low budget indie movie 2024? Like, I know... Like, I saw the TV Glow came out, but I think that's probably a little higher budget I do want to figure this out, because you have to think, like, yes, free labor, all of the actors are not being paid. They're not paying most of the set designers. They do mention using worldly contractors a couple of times in the behind the scenes videos that I watched when I was like doing my Jesus review thing. They mention worldly contractors, but I like animals, obviously. Like if they're buying animals, I think maybe the animals were gotten by like a witness who had a farm. So they are just paying like for the actual materials, like building materials. They're paying for things like cameras and lighting equipment and all of the programs that they use, like all the complicated CGI programs and stuff that they're using. But man, they're not spending that much money because stock footage isn't that expensive. Like I could buy some stock footage if I $2 million for catering. See, actually, catering is a really good point, but I think you're wrong, because I'll bet you anything that they just had the local congregations feed them like they do on a quick build. I'll bet they didn't pay for catering. Like, I'll bet Watchtower didn't. I'll bet people in the congregations did. So that's pretty unlikely. Like, I don't think they spent $10 million on it, but shit, I don't know. It depends on how much money went into building and government, having to get like government permits for shit and paying contractors.
Portrayed the fulfillment of the prophecy. In fact, two things are mentioned here.
Okay, Andy, do you think the Earth is flat? I think, that's the question. That's the question I have.
But what was actually prophesied before the fulfillment? Well, let's go right to the original prophet.
No, it's a lie. Like Matthew is one of those examples of a book that's written so clearly trying to retcon stuff. It's written, the whole introduction to Matthew is like, oh, wouldn't you know it? Jesus fulfilled this old prophecy and this one. It's amazing how it all ties together. Ooh, that's a good point. Very good point. You got to think that the Bethel that they do have there is all hands on deck for the movie. So they probably, like, if to the extent they even have catering there, they're probably just feeding the Bethelites. So you're right. They might have paid for catering. That's a good point. And you know what? Sorry, Wally, for doubting your catering call. He probably explained everything that I was just thinking and saying and that Jenny just said, but I didn't hear his speculation there.
Now,
that makes
in those
total
days,
sense.
A decree went out from Caesar Augustus for all the inhabited earth to be registered. And all the people went to be registered, each one to his own city. Of course, Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth, into Judea, to David's city, which is called Bethlehem.
I would not include this part.
While
if I was trying to
the time came
make the life of Jesus believable, I would not include the part where they had to like venture back because of a census of family from generations ago. It doesn't make any sense. I'm feeling a little vindicated in the point I was making in the Jesus video that I did, where I kind of, my thesis statement was they only made this because they're so persnickety about all these little specifics. Like, no, the manger didn't look like that. It wasn't winter and the animals wouldn't have been right there. So like, as opposed to trying to make it good and compelling, they were mostly focused on making it accurate. And that's why the result feels like a movie that Spock would make about the history of Vulcan. But probably not like a movie that somebody who's good at making movies would make about the history of Vulcan. Oh,
And
well,
she
imagine
gave birth to
literally
her
like
son,
pounding nails and like hauling
firstborn.
materials on work sites. That feels really bad to me. Food, at least somebody definitely enjoyed the food. Everyone's got to eat or else they die. Except for Jesus. He made it 40 days without even making a rock bread.
Over 700 years in advance, the prophet Micah foretold that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, Ephrathah.
What accent was this? But unimportant. I think this gentleman here is serving. I love it. I love everything about his outfit. I think that the silver beard looks incredible. His glasses are great. I've been thinking about going full round glasses. I think his white corduroy suit looks fucking cool. The orange is not a tacky Nickelodeon orange. I think it's bold and it's risky, and the risk is paying off for me, but I think reviews are going to be mixed.
Notice how Micah prophesied this at Micah chapter 5 and verse 2.
Doesn't it seem like he's saying the word Micah, where he's like, Micah?
Oh, you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, the one too little to be among the thousands of Judah.
The one too...
From you will come out...
Okay. Oh, God. Look at... Okay. Are we enjoying... Sorry, I guess I didn't really need to do that poll, but... it all worked out. We learned something, and we're cringing. Are we into Jesus, or do we want to move on to a different part? That's a poll I can do. So let's do... Should we... Keep watching G's. Watch other clips. Alright, sound off, sheeple.
To kill him.
Oh!
So Joseph got up, and by night...
That
took
baby
along
who's
the
looking
young
straight into
child
the
and
camera the
child's
entire
mother
time.
and went into Egypt.
I didn't notice that. That's really funny. So this is, like... It's hard to get babies to cooperate on set from like what I hear. I always assumed it's just because babies cry and they're fussy. But one thing I hadn't thought about is you probably have to be able to find a baby who's like you're able to consistently not have them look in the camera, because that's a genuinely hard thing to do as an actor. I would think like I have to think that if I was ever in a movie, my instinct would be to look right at the camera because that's what I do on YouTube. So this baby is just following its instinct.
To kill him.
So Joseph...
Look at this. He's just looking right at us. He's like, hello, audience. It is I, baby Jesus. First of my name.
Got up, and by night took along the young child and
It's really disorienting to watch that.
Then Herod, seeing
It's
that he
out
had
for
been
people-
outwitted by the astrologers, flew into...
It's out for people who have been to the convention. Like, they tell you how to access it on the JW Library app and on the website. So it's like, if you have a link to the website, it's technically on there, but it's not publicly listed. It's sort of like, it almost functions as a privated video on YouTube. Or not private, but unlisted. Where you, if you have a link, it'll work.
...fully ascertained from the astrologers.
The kings are always swimming in the river of ham in these movies. Oh, we didn't even get to see our king. Now this I don't like. I don't like the goatee. Now I'm generally kind of anti-goatee. Just because I think it often doesn't look great. And I know we watched Bart Ehrman earlier. Famous goatee haver. He kind of pulls it off, but I don't think this works. It looks gross. Looks like he spilled his coffee in his mustache and a little... first part of his beard hairs.
We're going to focus on two prophecies foretelling Satan's...
No, I'm going to focus on only your goatee, unfortunately. And I'm not saying it's immodest. I'm just saying my personal taste is I'm not a fan. Whoa, doesn't it look like he's got like a TikTok facial smoothing filter on or something? Like what?
To begin, let's watch another excerpt from the Good News According to Jesus.
That man's profile picture, look at this. This man's profile picture is this, and the camera is on his lap, and he's in a truck, right? Like, put sunglasses on this man and put him in a truck, and he is every elderly boomer.
Conservative
Conservative
Highland
profile
congregation,
picture.
messianic prophecy fulfilled, called a Nazarene.
Oh, I think it's awful. I think all of his look, like, Walter White is so fucking unappealing in that show. Like, it's obviously one of my favorites. I've rewatched Breaking Bad many, many times. Oh yeah, also, I got a Jesse tattoo. Because I'm definitely more Team Jesse than Team Walt, obviously. But I always think that his facial hair looks awful in that show. Like, he looks amazing with the beard. In the last season, when he has the beard, it looks great. And when he's got the goatee, it is better than his nasty mustache in the first 2 seasons. But I don't know. I think that they really intentionally try and make him unappealing. Walter. Oh, I haven't done my mic for Breaking Bad, Walter. You gotta stay away from my granddaughter.
To begin, let's watch another excerpt from the Good News According to Jesus, and then we will identify the prophecy that was fulfilled.
Why does he look fake?
When Herod had died, look, Jehovah's angel appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt.
The angel appeared, didn't he?
Take the young child
Sort of
and his
appeared
mother
there.
and go into the land of Israel.
Like, this is where the money went. It went into just having a donkey and having a drone overhead shot. And money was spent on this. The result is
Those who
so
are
bad.
seeking the life of the young child.
Oh, man. Okay, so people are saying keep watching, geez. All right.
So he got up and took the young child and the
Yeah,
child's
tattoos!
mother
Yes,
and
science!
entered into the land of Israel. And he came
Walter,
and
I
settled
find
in a
your
city
tattoo
named Nazareth.
acceptable.
In order to fulfill what was spoken
not
through the prophets.
Acceptable.
He
That
will
was
be
a
called
shitty attempt at Gus
a
Fring, I guess.
Nazarene.
So we see there in the end of the video.
I'll say this. Hank Schrader is every man in my family. He's so many men in my family are exactly like Hank Schrader. His energy reminds me a lot of my dad. And just his broy dude vibes. I think that... Sorry, I'll just start talking about Breaking Bad if I let myself.
A Nazarene. So we're going to discuss those 3 points now, but now that we've already identified the prophecy, the first point is going to be...
That's so tough because now you're just seeing the devil's facial hair on the convention.
A second, how was the prophecy fulfilled? And then the third point, why was the fulfillment of this prophecy remarkable? So first off, what other detail was connected to this prophecy? Well, let's look at the scriptures for the answer to that question. Please turn with me in your
No, that's
Bibles
hard to do.
Isaiah. That's Isaiah chapter
Nobody can
11.
do that guy's voice.
We're going to read verses 1 and 2.
So did you know that guy, his voice didn't always sound like that? Like, he was a comedian, and he literally, just from doing shows at, I don't remember what venue, if it was, like, whatever Nerdist's venue was or something, but it kind of became this urban legend. But he fucking, like, his voice didn't used to sound like that, and then he blew it out doing, like, improv shows and stuff, because he would just be so loud and crazy. And now he kind of has that, like, high-pitched voice, man. Like, he just fucked up his voice. Yeah, Badger. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Christina was like, that was your Badger? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, that was pretty good. Yeah. Sorry. ADHD brain.
Isaiah 11, 1 and 2.
No, not stop it with
says,
your scripture.
A twig will grow out of the stump of Jesse.
I'll say this. Maybe it's kind of old fuddy-duddy of me, but it seems... undignified to just pull out your phone on stage. It doesn't work for me. Oh, they made this guy in the Jehovah's Witness laboratory.
Member will now present the final part of the symposium.
Ooh, what's special about him?
Immediately. Time would be needed for this sprout to become king, and not just any king, the king of God's kingdom. Yes, this was truly a remarkable prophecy that the Messiah, a powerful king, would begin.
Oh, good call.
That the Messiah would be called the Nazarene. Brother Eula Coulter, a Walco Bethel family member, will now present the final part of the symposium.
Mia Coulter.
Messianic prophecy fulfilled. Arrived at the
Coulter.
appointed time.
I talked through his introduction. I think he's a Bethel speaker.
Please enjoy watching another excerpt from the Good News according to
Yeah, it says he's from New York on the
and then
thing.
we will identify the prophecy that was fulfilled.
And you are to name him Jesus.
We already saw this part.
And Jehovah God will give him the throne of David his father.
The throne of David
and he will
his
rule as
father.
king over the house of Jacob forever.
Jehovah's
going to
love Jesus so much.
He will save his people from their sins.
we had a couple good ones. You're totally right. Well, that, like, my dad always said, nobody's going to accept changes regarding beards until they see a governing body member do it. And I think that's why, like, right after they did the beard announcement, the next governing body update, Mark Sanderson had a beard. Like, we're not fucking around, guys. And that's, I think, what it takes. People have to see the governing body do it. It's not a cult. It's just that you have to check in with King Daddy first to make sure that he says it's okay. Is this JW's? Yes, it is. Yeah, because, like, it seem like he pulled it out to, like, check a text and it's like, oh, actually, I do have the Bible in here. Ah.
The true light that gives light to every sort of man was about to come into the world.
The true light of every sort of man. See, sometimes I can get into the Australian accent, but sometimes I can't. G'day, Jesus.
Well, this video certainly builds anticipation for the prophecy featured in this talk, which is the Messiah would arrive.
I feel like my
at the
boy
appointed
Andy was a little
time.
self-conscious about
Now, to
talking about
determine
flat
an
Earth.
appointed time, we need to know a start time and also a duration of time that would lead up to the Messiah. Look for those clues in the
I
prophecy
did.
recorded
Yes,
in
I
Daniel
agree.
9 and 25. That's Daniel 9 and 25.
Did we used to say baptizer? I feel like we did. John the Baptizer. And they're like, you know, you can, the real word is Baptist. And we're like, but that's a false religion. That's my headcanon as to why they flip-flop on
You
this.
should know and understand that from the issuing of the word to restore and...
Okay, this guy's also Snooze Fest 2024.
Numerous messianic prophecies
Whoa!
were fulfilled in Jesus, including
It's like the
prophecies
beginning of
about
Paper
his
Mario
birth.
games, where they'd zoom in on the
And your wife
storybook.
Elizabeth
Or Shrek,
will bear you a son,
who we heard from earlier in this convention.
and you are to name him John.
How is this to be? Since I'm not having sex.
This is so silly. Like, it would be as though I'm like, see, Rogue One fulfilled all of the plot holes in A New Hope. There was a reason why there was a hole on the Death Star. And it's like, yeah, but Rogue One came after. That was, you know, it's retconning. And that's fine. I don't care. But I also don't think that Star Wars is real. And they're kind of like, they have to think that this is real. I only wish that Star Wars was real. Ooh, look how excited he got there. I just wanted to do that because I thought that could be a thumbnail.
Welcome you.
Whoa!
So glad to have you.
Whoa!
A few years ago, a brother.
This guy's got some riz.
So
Let's hear.
Please come to the front 2 rows in the center section of the auditorium.
Oh, it's the baptism talk, maybe.
We warmly welcome all of you who are getting baptized today. Your decision
was so warm.
shows that you've put faith in the
Warmly
good
welcome.
news and acted on the good
Damn.
news.
My skin was looking fucking shiny. Sorry
How
about
can you
that.
go on progressing spiritually in the days to come? Please listen closely to Brother Keith Bradley, pioneer serving in the Minnewaska congregation, as he answers that question in the baptism discourse entitled, Continue to be submissive to the good news.
A few years ago, a brother approached me with a very warm smile.
What? Ay, papi. Well, I'm glad we found this guy. This is scary. Actually, we have to see it again. That's how scary it was. A brother approached me with a smile. Yes, we have peaked. We have truly peaked and found the creepiest speaker.
Continue to be submissive to the good news.
A few years ago, a brother approached me with a very warm smile. Later here, he said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said,
No.
Sure. He said, "You know, I met someone, and I'm thinking about pursuing a relationship." I said, "Wow."
Was this a baby? Was this a baby that came up to him and that's why he was talking like that?
There are few things that
Ooh.
bring this wide range of emotions than the prospect of a long-lasting relationship. But of all the relationships that a human can have, the most wonderful, the most fulfilling is the one you, dear candidates, are solidifying today, submitting to the good news through baptism.
Submitting to the good news? Is that what he just said? I feel like I've never heard that phrase. Maybe I heard him wrong.
One you, dear candidates, are solidifying today, submitting to the good news through baptism.
What? That doesn't even make sense. Would it not be them submitting to Jehovah or the organization or Jesus? The good news is something you preach. The only time you submit good news is if you are a journalist and you submit what you wrote to the newspaper where you work. But submitting to the good news does not make any sense.
We warmly welcome you. So glad that.
Oh, that was an iconic "We warmly welcome you." I should do a "We warmly welcome you" montage. That would be a good one.
But in all levels of relationships, it could be dating.
Stay
it could
tuned.
be
Stay tuned to the channel.
Bosses at a secular work, at school, with a teacher, even law enforcement while driving.
Lowe's comments are really good. This is normal speed. This is not slowed down. Isn't that great? It really seems like it is, but it's not. No, I actually can't speed this up or slow it down. Otherwise, I definitely would speed it up. So Lowe says, "I swear I think I have this weird compulsion to make my eyes too wide to show people I'm interested in what they're saying because of some JW Ministry School thing." Well, I've noticed, like, I have a long, awkward pause thing that I do, and it's definitely because of my theocratic ministry school training. I try to not say like and too much, which I don't succeed in. But so instead of doing that, I'll just stop. And especially when I'm editing videos, I can see the long pauses, and it's like the long pauses I see when I make those awkward silent supercuts. So if anything, I think the theocratic ministry school was disadvantageous.
Appropriate submission is one of the keys to success. But this idea of submission, very distasteful to a lot of people. Some even carry themselves with an air about them. Don't tell me what to do. Do we know people like that? Oh, yeah. But do you know, we are constantly under...
Do we know people like that? Oh, yeah. Good Lord. This is... Okay. I'm going to have to upload this, like, part, like, as the stream highlight, just reacting to this guy. Or do something. Stop telling people how to feel. No, it's true. They do have to, get around this thing that submissiveness is obviously seen as a bad thing. And, you know, it feels pointed in... Sorry, I'm just trying to close this a little bit because there's so much light shining on me. It feels a little pointed that they have a black man doing this. You're like, no, it is okay to be submissive. It just, like, it feels coded in a way. I don't know. I don't like it.
Submission to something. I mean, to get here to this facility, did we decide the speed limit? No. We actually submitted. We yielded to the authority of someone else who made that decision. And you know, we saw its merit. So if we see the value of submission to a speed limit, how much more so is there tremendous value when we choose to be submissive to the good news?
I hate this. This is so awful. I mean, it's like almost... It's almost unlistenable because he talks so slowly. But he's also mesmerizing because I've never seen... This is like the apotheosis of Stephen Lett's speaking style. Like, this is the most slow, is the slowest and most over the top and eye-buggiest way that you can possibly give a Jehovah's Witness talk. Yeah, he's also saying submissive too much. Ooh, how much more so? Yeah, I thought that when he said that, I'm like, there's so many supercuts you could make. How much more so is one. One thing to do my little weekly plug of the book, Not a Cult. There's obviously stuff written. Okay, here's a word I have to get a real rein on. Is the word obviously? I say it way too much. I've noticed it, and so call me out on it. I want to work on this IRL for real. But the how much more so thing. When writing Not a Cult, I had a few instances where I had to like write a fake JW broadcasting snippet to play into the plot, or like a fake thing that's not actually in writing, but it has to sound like it was written by Watchtower. And the key to that shit is a lot of how much more so. That is their calling card. Like, if you think that we should wear shirts when we go outside to pick up the newspaper, how much more so should we wear a full suit and tie when going to the meetings? Very bad example, but that's what I mean.
Let's notice a good result of that in God's word. Let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 13. Please.
Maybe it's like all 5-year-olds
2
getting
Corinthians
baptized.
chapter 9 and verse 13. The middle of the verse says, they glorify God because you are submissive to the good news about the Christ. So right there we learn submission glorifies it.
Well, I'm going to mute this for 5 seconds, so he'll be on his next sentence by the time I'm done reading this. Sisters being submissive meant that they didn't feel comfortable telling brothers when they were working the wrong side of the street. I know. Like, you had to do this thing. We would make fun of my grandmother for doing it, but I think she did it for this reason. She'd go like, when she wanted to correct you on something, she'd go like, and it's that, I want to be submissive. I'm not being too much. I'm not being accusatory, but I think we're supposed to be on the other side of the street. So that was her calling card. Every time,
Very
like,
important.
my
Number 3,
aunts and uncles or my dad
accept help
did an impression
from
of grandma, that's what they would
spiritually
do.
Fellow worshipers, that's vital. So let's talk about number one, maintain a
P.
good spiritual routine.
No, I'm sorry. Number one is
Well, sometimes if
P.
individuals are dating, they often develop a nice routine to care for themselves.
How are book sales for real people that make books? What do you mean by that? Like as opposed to Watchtower, who just is going to print a certain amount of them for no reason?
Physically, they make sure their hair is done. They make sure their clothes are okay.
Clothes!
They eat right to fit into those clothes. They want to look their best. They gladly submit to that routine.
They gladly submit to the routine. That's such a weird... No. You can't just redefine a word and then apply it to everything. Having a routine is not the same thing as submitting to a routine. I don't submit to the act of brushing my teeth every morning or after I eat a meal. That's just a thing I do. I'm not submitting to a dentist. It's just a health thing that I understand is going to be in my best interests. And I would not even necessarily say that you submit to a speed limit, because actually you can go a little over or a little under and it's not illegal and it's fine. Jenny Bloom says the carrot should be submissive to the chicken in the soup. It just doesn't make any sense what he's saying, but I see a ring on it, so he got someone to submit to his corny ass.
Need to be submissive to the good news. We need to continue
This
a
absolute
nice
cheeseball
to care for ourselves spiritually.
Oh.
So what does that submission involve? Well, prayerfully reading God's word, doing so daily, and then meditating on what we learn.
He sounds like he is reading a storybook to forest animals in a cartoon. Like, once there was a little prince who lived underneath the biggest boot in Shootin'. I don't know.
Looks forward to reading text messages from a person they're interested in. They submit to phone alerts. They stop what they're doing.
100%.
If the alert goes off. We hear from Jehovah.
Honey,
we read the Bible.
Why isn't my
what an
dinner
excellent motive
on the table already?
Ask him for his help, and he'll happily assist so we can understand his word and actually continue to find delight in reading it. What are some other routines we need?
Thank you. We did miss a critical element of this talk, which is his disgusting little chin beard. Not a fan of this style. Not a fan of this style at all. It's pubish in nature. Reminds me of just like, I don't know, looking at the bottom of a scrotum or something. It's no good. It's like an accident. It's like, hey, you missed a spot. Shaving. And I think he should feel bad about it. I think he should feel bad. And it's probably just because it takes him 3 hours to shave, because he does everything so slowly that he just got tired by the time he got there. And he's like, no one's going to notice this little bit of hair.
Well, preparing for and attending our Christian meetings. I think most of us will agree.
Submit to the channel by subscribing and liking.
But after the meetings, how do we feel? Don't we feel energized? That's not an accident. That's by design. So we encourage you continue to get...
Whomst in God's green flat earth has ever felt energized by a meeting? They are the opposite. It's like taking a melatonin pill. I'm just doing another poll. Okay. This is a poll that we're going to be doing here. See if you like this trip.
And to give encouragement at meetings through your attendance, conversation, commenting. Keep that as part of your routine.
You're like, whew, It didn't last forever. It actually ended.
See if you can notice how often we should preach the good news. Let's read Acts chapter 5.
Thank you. I meant to bring this up and then got so distracted by his the everything about him generally. But this is a point I made in that shunning video that I think is important. That I think it came up in the Norway trial that Jehovah's Witnesses, they make kids get baptized, and Watchtower talks about baptism as the most important commitment that a person ever makes. It's more important than marriage. So I'm probably not going to say this right. Is it Schuyler Black? Correct me on that, but sorry to belabor the point. This is about baptism, which he compares to dating, and we know there are minors who can't consent to marriage in their culture. Is this audience, can they yet consent to baptism? And that's the thing. Well, that's another good point by Maria. They're not against arranged marriages. They're just like, whatever the culture is, it's fine. So if the culture is arranged marriages, they're totally fine with it. They just don't... I think they don't like being accused of erasing people's culture, because they do, and it is racist and weird of them. So they're like, no, keep that part of your culture that has basically nothing to do with our religion.
That's the book of Acts.
Sounds misogynistic. That's right up our alley.
Verse 42, and see if you can notice how often. Acts chapter 5 and verse 42.
Good stuff, Fritz.
And
good job.
Every day in the temple and from house to house.
Okay, we're gonna get past this, but
and every day.
Does he think we're fucking stupid?
In the temple and from house to house. Acts 17:17.
Oh god, he's just reading another scripture. Does he show a video? I think we've got enough for this particular flavor. Wow, they don't bother with the... Oh no! Okay, I feel a little weird about showing people who aren't leadership on stream. Like when I showed an interview last time, I blurred it out. So I don't know. I feel a little weird showing this interview. These are just random people who didn't consent to being shown on the internet, which, you know, people in the dramas on jw.org do, so I feel a little bit less bad about it. Where's our video, bitch? Damn it. Okay. I want to see what questions he asked.
And advice.
Like, what are the baptism questions now?
If it's unsolicited. Get to know these brothers.
Unsolicited advice, not something you would get in Jehovah's Witnesses. Never.
All mature brothers and sisters that are in the congregation. Now, we must admit that sometimes relationships with...
Oh, we must admit this. So, okay, he's like, if AI watched all the governing body on how to give a talk. This is from Heath. I know. I've said it before and I'll say it again. AI is going to be a real problem. Well, obviously just in general, and also it already is a big problem. But for witnesses specifically, they just already talk like AI. All of the things that tip a person off as to, hey, this is probably not actually Scarlett Johansson talking. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses just talk like that already. And all of their Bible readings have sounded like AI readings forever. But they've had them on CD-ROM and tape since the invention of that technology. So I don't really know what to do about that. Going forward, I just am trying to delineate clearly between what is a supercut, like putting the source of a video on screen, just to do my due diligence so witnesses don't accuse me of using AI. Like, I know that they will anyway, because it's just an excuse, and they'll say it no matter what, but whatever. There's some mixed results on showing people. Maria says, to be honest, I think it's a good idea that you don't focus too much on the interviews. People are really brainwashed to trauma dump all over the convention. I mean, listen, for me, I gave interviews on the convention as a kid and also as an adult, And I would frankly be mortified if that stuff was out there. The only comfort I have is that so little of it is on tape. So little of it is on YouTube. And if I like woke up and like imagine that one of those people that's interviewed, they wake up and they go on YouTube and then they see us like making fun of them, I would feel bad. And I think it's definitely a morally gray area. And probably I would end up having a sense of humor about it, and hopefully they would too. But it's just like, whatever. You think the stream is high in fiber and other essential nutrients? I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to just get, before I wrap this up, I want to get to the baptism questions because I don't know what they are anymore.
People is sometimes a maybe.
People is sometimes a maybe.
They won't always be there. Sometimes the people we're in school with, we graduate, we never see them again. People on our jobs.
Voluntold.
Jobs,
and they like massage your story so that it sounds better for the talk.
We're interested in, we date them and it doesn't work out. And that's not bad because dating has served its purpose. But our relationship with...
Well, that's the thing. I had to give a talk like that. Or not a talk, an interview. Like I was interviewed about something like that. I don't even remember the specifics of it. It wasn't about masturbation, but it was about like overcoming temptation. And I would, run into the middle of the street if that was on the internet, probably. That's my message to the kids out there. Just, you're not necessarily gonna want everything you've ever done on the internet. Don't keep some stuff not on TikTok.
Jehovah, that is a definite. That is right. Never ever forget that, because in our service to God, we are going to continue to go through a lot of emotions. We're going to have some fear. We're going to have some sadness. We're going to have some disappointment. But that relationship with Jehovah helps.
My thing is that I would just want to have control over it. Like my plan after this for the patron stream is to look at old Watchtower, not Watchtower, but like my JW days. I found some more. I talked about some of them on a stream one time, but I found some more. I forgot how many I had just like on my Instagram because I've had my Instagram since like 2013. This is a good pause phase, first of all. And so for me, I feel totally comfortable making fun of my past self. But if I showed up after the fact, late to the party, and found out that people had been making fun of me on the internet for years, I would feel bad. I'm sure I would get over it, because I would be glad that I wasn't in a cult. But I don't know. For me, I'm going to go easy on the, randos who are, interviewed.
Keep all of that in the right...
But if it's filmed and it's on the website, that's different. Like this was only supposed to be at one convention that is streamed to people in their territory, but I know, I'm making arbitrary distinctions.
Our value and our worth to our Heavenly Father, because you, dear friends, precious. You can stay that way. And as we serve Jehovah, we will also experience happiness.
Yeah, you got to clear your head before you get up on the platform.
Contentment. We will be able to have peace in a variety of situations. We encourage you, continue to read the good news.
He's slowing down.
Live the good news.
He started out, he went from 0 to -5.
Keep that good spiritual routine. We also talked about setting spiritual goals and accepting.
There's a the problem, as usual, is I have too many ideas of things that we might be edging. I have too many ideas of things that I could do with this convention as far as funny edits go, but I don't want to come across like I'm milting it, or frankly, like I'm milking it. I just like making funny edits for fun, but there's a strong case to be made for an awkward silence supercut, because there's a lot of awkward silence. But an edit that I've wanted to make for a while is something like the Notice video, where just kind of breaking down the formulaic nature of their talk. There's a reason why I was really into making that video about the JW Broadcasting recipe. Holy shit, recipe. Oh no, it's all falling apart here, folks. I like figuring out like what the little formula is, and so I've wanted to make an edit of just like the way that every single talk, whether it is the key talk by a governing body member or just part of a symposium, every talk is like, we're going to look at 2 points, we're going to look at 3 points, we're going to go through 5 points. And I think if you could make an edit of that, it would be insane and it would drive me insane making it, but I think the results might be worth it. So let me know about that.
From brothers and sisters.
I think I might,
that way.
I think I might start having my patrons vote on what, like supercuts to make, to give me a little bit of direction in life.
All intact, our relationship with Jehovah. And so now
this guy's a soaker for sure.
We have reached an important part of our time together.
Oh!
Some questions. Oh,
stop it, dude! What the fuck is he doing?
Now we have reached an important part of our time together. I get to ask you some questions. Oh, this is exciting. So
what is he doing?
Baptismal candidates to please stand.
What are you doing in my swamp?
We're going to ask you 2 questions, and in a loud voice, we like.
Okay, so if I can set the stage for Never JWs, like the 100% that was the clip, by the way. Okay. This talk is the equivalent of the teacher forgot to tell you what the font size is, but told you to write a 5-page paper, so you just make the size. Like, well, if I make it like 14, they're not going to notice the difference between that and 12. It's like, and I'll make it like 1.5 spacing and double indent my paragraphs. This is the talk. Incognito, so this is a masterclass on taking 5 minutes of material and making it a 15-minute talk. Okay, so the this is the baptism talk. So people who are going to be baptized at this convention, who had to go through like 3 rounds of questioning where they could at any point be eliminated and have to be like, better luck next year. So you go through all these questions about JW doctrine, and then they're like, okay, you're approved to get baptized. And so on the Saturday afternoon talk, they ask you to sit up close to the stage where they have a pool either built into the stage or or they built one next to it or whatever. And at the end of the talk, they have you stand up and make a verbal dedication. And it's strange. So what you're not seeing is that, like, in the front row of this auditorium, there's however many people, hopefully a lot if you're a witness. You want to see tons of people stand up, because that means tons of people are joining the movement. But sometimes it's like, oh shit, they only had like 2 people get baptized. Or 1. Sometimes there's only 1 at an assembly. Sometimes there's none. And the talk turns into, please consider getting baptized if you're not. So that's what's going on here, and they ask 2 questions, and it's weird, but I want to see him say this thing again.
Our relationship with Jehovah. And so now we have reached an important part of our time together. I get to ask you some questions. Oh, this is exciting. So we invite you, dear baptismal candidates, to please stand.
They're invited.
And we're going to ask you 2 questions. And in a loud voice, we like to hear your reply. Now, I'm going to say your answer, please, and then you can respond loudly. So here's the first question. Have you repented of your sins, dedicated yourself to Jehovah, and accepted his way of salvation through Jesus Christ? Your answer, please. All well done.
All well done. Wait a minute. I have to hear that question again. That was confusing. What was it?
And you can respond loudly. So here's the first question. Have you repented of your sins, dedicated yourself to Jehovah, and accepted his way of salvation through Jesus Christ? Your answer, please. All well done. Oh, I like that. You shook.
Why? Okay, the one thing that's a little different is they didn't say dedicate yourself to Jehovah in prayer. I'm glad they got rid of that because I didn't know I was supposed to do that until I did that dedication. I was like, what dedicate in prayer? What's that mean? So it makes more sense. You're like, yeah, I dedicated myself. I'm here, obviously.
The rafters. We don't have rafters here. We got steel girders. I don't know. Construction. You shook the construction.
Shut the fuck up.
Our second question. Do you understand that your baptism identifies you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with Jehovah's organization? Your answer, please. Well done. Your clear affirmative answers to these questions indicate that you are qualified for baptism as ordained ministers of Jehovah God.
Okay, so this whole thing is really weird. Larchwood had a really amazing post recently, within the last few weeks, about what is Jehovah's organization? Like, what actually is it? And it's confusing because they really go out of their way to not say that, like, you're a member of the group. They got rid of the word member from all of their, like, internal elders manuals. So the Shepherd book doesn't have the word member in it anymore. I don't know. I think they're trying to play some kind of linguistic, legal jujitsu. So I guess if a member commits a crime, they can be like, what? We don't have members. Control F, try and find that word. You won't find it anywhere. That's just some guy. That was just some guy who happens to go to a kingdom hall. I don't know what they think they're wriggling out of with this, but, like, the language is, are you aware that this identifies you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with? That's kind of weird. It's like, you are now one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That is not said. It is just like, this identifies you as one. But if you're disfellowshipped, it does say you are no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's like, at what point do you become a member? It's very weird. Confusing. Yeah, I know. They're like the eunuchs in the Bible. Yeah. They're like, hey, you made such a good decision. Oh. I mean, when you see extended applause like this, you know I gotta do an awkward silence supercut.
Very nice. It's now appropriate that we pray.
They always do. They always say it like that. They always say, it will be appropriate to pray now. It's like, you don't have to say it would be appropriate. You could just do it, you know? You could just start saying a prayer. Like, now we will pray. But they always say, it would be appropriate to pray at this time. I guess implying that it would be inappropriate to not pray at that time. I don't know. All right, so we did it. We did it, gang. We watched Saturday, most of Saturday. I'm really enjoying just going through this and digging for spiritual cringe. And maybe we should call it that. It's like, it's not digging for spiritual gems. It's like digging for content. Digging for spiritual content. I don't know. So sound off in the comments about what this should be called. I think I might keep this up on the channel because I don't know. But do subscribe to the Sunday service feed because I don't keep all of these listed on the main channel. Please do, if you're not a Patreon or member, consider doing that. I've got a lot of exclusive videos, including one that I filmed yesterday, or actually a couple that I filmed yesterday I'll be releasing soon. I've got a pretty healthy backlog of exclusive stuff, like little reactions to weird YouTube comments, digging for spiritual cringe. That's pretty good. Digging for spiritual cringe. Like Jehovah already heard this prayer, and Jehovah doesn't like reruns. Okay, digging for spiritual cringe, I think is what I will retitle this stream. I'm gonna try and make the thumbnail one of this guy, this amazing guy, and I'll put some chapters. Okay, so yeah, consider joining. Got some good stuff there. I'm gonna do a members only stream probably in about a half an hour. We'll probably go for an hour. And Cringe Binge. Hey, thanks, QC man. Appreciate you. Hey, no worries. No worries. I usually have zero money at all. And frankly, you know, I would probably subscribe to a better YouTuber if I had more money for Patreon. There was something I wanted to say. So going forward, like, I'm going to try and put something out tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be like a substantial video or if it's going to be like an edit thing, but I'm just having fun posting stuff. And I said this in like a members only video that I'm going to be releasing, kind of reviewing all the videos I made during Try Month and like what I learned, what I could have done better, stuff like that. But I did a stream recently with patrons where I went through my sketchbook, just like one of the sketchbooks that I have, you know, and that's kind of how I've started viewing the channel. Basically, is like I don't keep a diary, but this feels like a sketchbook. I just whatever I'm into. Some of these are just doodles, and some of them are more polished. But for me, the point is I just kind of like making stuff. So if you like it, there's more of it. I think this is as good a time as any, and thank you for this wonderful bit of branding. We do have to move from Try Month to Buy Month. So we gotta do something Pride related. The thing with doing stuff that's Pride related, as it relates to or relates to Jehovah's Witnesses, is like, I think that Pride Month is a time to not talk about how disgustingly homophobic they are. I think I said homophobic, but you know what I mean. Gay people are my homies. So what I want to do, and I just want to make sure I find a way to do it that's not, I don't know, problematic, but I want to do like the most accidentally homoerotic artwork of theirs. Like I want to do one of my JW art reviews, but of like the sexy Jesus coming up out of the water with like his super detailed wet chest hair, and like Paul and the Ethiopian eunuch touching dicks or whatever they do in that Bible account. Just like the one that I talked about in the Revelation book, where it's just a bunch of guys in like rainbow vests riding horses or something. Like that shit's amazing. Thank you, Shula by Faden. You're amazing. Lo, you're amazing. So, yeah, I gotta find something to do for Pride Month that's not, like, triggering content. I definitely want to make a YouTube poop where, you know, governing bodies talking about gay stuff, because that's always fun. But, yeah, hopefully not triggering stuff. And then big projects, I just have too many. I've got too many ideas, so... And I'm behind on my, like, goalposts for the book, so I gotta crack down on that. So Buy Month will probably be less prolific than Pride Month, but it will be more prodigious, if you know what I mean. Tight pants for everyone. Yes, good call, Judas kissing Jesus. Maybe we can do that on the private stream, too. We can do, we can do some digging for content and try and find some good homoerotic art. Obviously, saying homosexual is iconic. All right, fam. Well, let's watch this intro I made again, because I actually didn't get it really. I like made it, rendered it, and because I was late to start the stream, so I didn't even really pay attention to it. And thanks to everyone who watched. What a fun time we did.
Please give close attention to the following encouragement.
I have a good job. I'm content. I'm needed. I hate the baby Jesus. I consider adulthood Jesus 1,000 times greater. And also, I hate the movie Inception. Why? Well, one thing about it, the dream is true. And also, I'm not smart enough.